Hello, how you doing? Well, I got the 80mm Fujifilm macro lens, but something came up, and that's happened too in the past on certain lenses or cameras where the camera store will have X number allocated and the certain number will come in short of that supply. That's usually the case on any new camera or lens that's in high demand. Also to the 80mm macro, so mine will actually be coming either 7 or 10 days from now on one of my suppliers for the 80mm macro, but here's the 80mm macro. So I wanted to actually tell you something about how I got this, since nobody else is mentioning this. This is actually a great option. We all kind of know, that camera stores, and I used to work in 4 camera stores, have dwindled up and died due to large New York outfits, which is, it's just the nature of things and changing times. So if someone wanted to try a Fujifilm lens and not have to go to the trouble of purchasing it to see whether it fits with the scenario or the type of photography or the genre or the type of rendering or output that they want, instead of actually having to purchase one and go to the hassle of returning it, which of course is a bad idea, they could actually get a rental. And what I did actually to get this lens as soon as possible, this is actually a Fujifilm Professional Services rental, and I have the link for them below. And they actually come in a special box, which I'm actually about to grab over here and show you. So I've actually been testing the Fujifilm 80mm macro, and I'm going to do a mini review here in a future video tonight. I guess future tonight doesn't really make much sense, but it's a future video as far as being one after this. Anyway, this is the 80mm 2.8 macro Fuji that I got a rental from Fujifilm. I did a three-day rental. I know when I went to their website to go over the rules and conditions of returning it, that they have a 3-day, 7-day, 14-day, 28-day, and 60-day rental services, not only on GFX cameras, GFX lenses, Fujifilm X series lenses, Fujifilm X series cameras, and that's great. A lot of people out in the Midwest or various remote places, it's odd that, my city that I live in is not that big, but luckily it still has a camera store, but they don't have this lens either. So for me to be able to test this, I'm using a Fujifilm Professional Services to have it sent to me. But a lot of cities, even really large cities, my city at my home down south, literally if I went over to Miami, it doesn't matter where I went, there's no camera store. So if you want to try out a lens without purchasing it, this is an absolutely incredible, excellent choice, because I get asked that question all the time, like, well, how, I'd like to try the lens, but there's no camera store near me, before I actually, dip my fingers into purchasing the lens, I need to know whether it fits me, so to say, as far as what it is you want. And the rental prices are incredibly reasonable, so I rented this, and I wanted to tell you about it, and this is actually the rental box. As you can see here on the side, the Fujifilm Professional Services. It's actually a reusable box, so they kind of definitely went to the extreme in the good way as far as being environmentally conscious, because it's a reusable box that's velcroed on the bottom. You actually have to sign for everything. Obviously you want proof of delivery, so it's not like you're gonna order or rent, a GFX camera or X series camera. It's gonna be left on your doorstep for someone to potentially snake off with. You actually have to sign for it, and it actually has 2 zip ties on either side. Let me take the Velcro off and show you here what you get, because I noticed that nobody else is talking about this, and this really is an incredible option for trying out. Like, there's a lot of people, by the way, that say, I'm really interested in getting GFX, but I've got no way of, I like to try it before, I spend some money. Well, contact Fujifilm's Professional Services. You can email them, or and by the way, no, I have no connection to Fujifilm, so I'm actually making this video in response to the endless number of people that have asked me, or they've actually posed the conundrum of, what do I do? I've got no camera store, and I don't want to buy it and have to return it, because that's a stinker. I don't like buying stuff and returning it either. I want to be sure I absolutely want it before I buy it. So here's the intermediary, excuse me. And actually I have, this is my, I don't want to show you my address and everything. This is my 3-day rental agreement paperwork. and it came in a double bubble wrap, and it's also a really heavy padded foam. This is not the cardboard, this is actually a sort of plastic board sort of case. I don't know if you can see it. It's a plastic fiber fill, and it's reusable. And inside a little package, including whatever camera lens it is that you have, that you've placed a rental on. You have a return label here, and Fujifilm uses GFX. Excuse me, GFX. Fujifilm uses FedEx. Excuse me. There we go. Uses FedEx and 2 zip ties. So once you actually pop your lens or camera back in the same fancy bubble wrap, double bubble wrap that it came wrapped in, you zip tie it on the side here, right through the loops where you got it, that you actually broke the loops from, and slap the label on and hit the FedEx store. That's pretty simple. This really is an answer for a lot of people that it's like, ah, God, I want to try it, but I'm like 300 miles from the nearest camera store. And even if, like even my case, even if you're near your camera store, if it's a new item, or if it's an expensive item, or whatever, my camera store doesn't have the 80mm macro in. So until mine comes in, and I've been promised like 7 or 8 days on my 80, but I have this in the meantime, and I'm going to test it. I'm going to do a full review on it. Until it happens, I have this for testing, and this is an option for you. So I'm going to just pop it back in. I wonder what it would actually come in. I'm like, well, they sent it in a cardboard box, and I'm going to be repackaging it back up, but it comes in this really sturdy, infinitely reusable box. This is also very environmentally conscious, to say the least, too. The only thing you're actually throwing away are the 2 zip ties that actually close it. First you hit the Velcro on either side. Obviously that's not the only thing holding the box together. And then you stick your zip ties on there and cut off the excess and slap on the label and hit the FedEx store. Fujifilm Professional Services. So, in addition to getting this 80mm macro for testing, until mine comes in, this also is an excellent premise for making this video as answer to a question a lot of people have been asking me. I'd like to rent it, but, I gotta buy it, and if I don't like it, I might have to return it. Of course, that would never be the case with Fuji, right? That is the answer. Their prices are very reasonable. You also do have to consider the wear and tear on the gear, and the fact that they have to clean the equipment every time that you ship it back. And then, of course, there's the shipping cost of getting to you. So if you consider all of that, the prices are incredibly low as far as rental gear goes, professional photography camera rental gear. So I'm going to test out the 80mm macro over the next 3 days. I'm going to really stick my nose to the grindstone, as it were, with this lens. Then I'm going to return it, and then I'll get my copy here in, I don't know, 7 to 10 days. I could get a little sooner. Talking to the supplier for my 80mm. Where I ordered it from came up short, and that's because this lens is in incredibly high demand. Let me tell you what, by the way, before I do the review, since I've been testing all day on this lens, and I'm going to do a mini review today. This is absolutely, and trust me, brother man, I've got like 12 macro lenses. I got more than 12 macro lenses of various manufacturers. Nikon, Fujifilm. I got all Fujifilm lenses. This is the fast, even more than Canon, even more than any other. This is the fastest macro autofocus lens on the planet. There's just no question about it, because I've definitely had my fingers on more macro lenses than anybody out there. That's not egotism or bragging. I mean it. Let me do a really quick review of this lens for you. It's that good. So the link is below. Right now I got the fireplace on the screen, but I got the rental services below. You can click on the cost per day and per item on GFX, X series, and X series lenses for 3 day, 7 day, 14 day, 28 day, and 60 day rental. Yep a doodle. Thanks so much for watching. I hope I could be helpful, because that is my mission. Sometimes it's actually good to do stuff the old-fashioned way. It's like people have a problem, you look for the answer, and you try to be helpful. Not everything has to be, well, I'll do this for you if you do that for me. It's like, just be helpful. Thank you. And I haven't done it in the past few videos. People said, why didn't you say Fuji at the end of the video? So I'm going to do it at the end of this, go, Fuji! For some reason, people like it when I do that. Oh, my goodness. Also, too, in the next video, I'm going to show you, and I've been using this now for years as my little. This is incredibly lightweight. This is an incredible macro add-on. It just velcros on in about 3 seconds. I know this looks kind of really strange. I know this looks really. It's really lightweight. This doesn't even weigh like an ounce. It weighs less than an ounce. Oh my goodness. The light funnels down through here and it actually hits a reflector, a sloping reflector, and it gives you the most beautiful macro. I kind of fancy myself as an expert of macro photography, and I really kind of am. I've developed and innovated a bunch of original stuff for macro photography. Anyway, yeah, that was me puffing my chest up at the very end there. Sorry about that. I'm glad I'm able to have this lens until I get mine in. Thank you so much for watching. And thanks to Professional Services when I called them and I rented the 80mm macro for a few days. Thank you. Goodbye.